All About China by Lindsay, Kelsey, Savannah, Joe, and Olivia.
Historical background information of China. China became civilized in 3500 BC, just around the time city-states and written words appeared in India and in the Middle East. In 1500 BC, the first Chinese empire was founded. China is located in Eastern Asia and borders several countries. The capital of China is Beijing. The Chinese population consists of 1.379 billion people. The population growth rate is 0.5% annual change. The government is communist. In the 19th century, China was faced with famine and civil unrest because of years of foreign imperialist control. The Qing dynasty had poor policies and was corrupt. In 1912, the Qing dynasty fell and the Republic of China was created. China's religious beliefs can be compared in similarity with India because they are both based on cycles. Such cycles include seasons, fertility of plants, animals, and human beings, and these were common ancient beliefs. It wasn't until the 6th BC when China began developing what is known as Confucianism. This ideology stresses the importance of duty and what behavior is right. This philosophical belief also stressed importance on the hierarchical nature of society in China through social and moral codes. Confucianism was very centered on the importance of family, elders, and ancestors. Taoism is also a Chinese philosophical belief dating back to around the 6th century BC. Taoism is taught to teach the individual to surrender themselves to nature in order to find where they belong in this world. By finding yourself in nature, they call it the Way, or Tao. The yin-yang represents balance of natural forces and its common staple image for Taoism. The last Chinese religious/philosophical belief is Buddhism. This belief came from India in the 6th AD. Buddhism emphasizes the importance of finding a path of spiritual peace through meditation and study. Buddhism is more complex than it because it has 8-fold path and offers a series of steps that require follow in order to achieve nirvana. Nirvana is liberation of the soul.
Social norms and customs. The most common language in China is Mandarin. It is known as the Han language. Due to the vast country and large population, there are hundreds of differences in dialect. As far as gender roles are concerned in society, the women held a subordinate role to that of men. However, they had some power of authority in the home. There is a tradition of foot binding that is representative of the power of men had over women when they became close to crippled in early stages of their lives by that tradition. Finally, it was banned in the early 20th century. Also, in the 20th century, women's roles began to change. Today, women have more advantages than they had in the past. They also now have the opportunity to find themselves in roles in medicine, pharmacology, education, and science, common roles that are traditionally known for being dominated by men. However, there are still struggles and setbacks for women when it comes to the executive positions. One of the most commonly known customs in China is the policy they have relating to having children. In 1979, the one-child policy was introduced as a way to slow down the population that was growing rapidly. This is where the male child is favored over the female child. There is a celebration held after the first month of birth called Full Moon Celebration. This is where the mother and child represent themselves to relatives and guests who bring money in a red envelope and have plates of pickled red ginger and red eggs. The color red is meant to symbolize good luck, health, and happiness, and the eggs represent new life and harmony. Sometimes this celebration is known as the Red Egg and Ginger Party. Children must show obedience and respect to their elders, which aligns with the belief in Confucianism. Education is mandatory for 9 years, and after that, approximately 3/4 of the population continues their education and attends secondary school, and that lasts for 3 years.
Chinese naming conventions include 1 or 2 characters and they come after the surname. Typically, people in China do not have a middle name, and women do not change their name when they are married. They keep their maiden name. Greetings in China are very formal, and the eldest person is to be greeted first. A handshake will be the most common greeting with a foreigner. When communicating, the nonverbal cues speaks more than words do. They are very reliant on delivering their message with facial expressions, tone, and posture when they speak. Direct eye contact with another person's eye is actually disrespectful and should be avoided. Personal space is something to be respected of, and they do not like when people overstep. Touching is only acceptable between family and close friends, so it wouldn't be appropriate to touch someone that you just met. The social stratification dates back to class differences from the first Qin dynasty in 221. It used to be an emperor as the ruler who held all power. Below him was his advisors who held over the next, who were the nobles and military generals. Merchants and artists below them, and lastly were peasants and slaves. But after the Chinese Revolution in 1949, the Republic of China was formed, and that was how China became communist.
As mentioned earlier, the religious beliefs are philosophical and include Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism. China is known for many of their arts and humanities in their culture, specifically pottery, because China was the first to discover porcelain. A common pattern is the blue and white willow that depicts pastoral and rustic scenes of what everyday life looks like in China's past. There are several items represented through symbols that the Chinese believe in are important. In art, a crane represents longevity. A dragon is used as a symbol to represent power and immortality and is most commonly associated with the emperor. A mythical bird reborn out of fire is a phoenix and symbolizes renewal and fertility. Flowers are seen as a symbol to have seasonal associations and are also used to symbolize fertility. The Chinese use architecture and paintings to visualize symbols that dominate the design. Curved roof beams and extended beam ends that mark the edges of roofs are a construction method but have meaning and symbol. It is believed that only demons or evil spirits could travel in straight lines, curves, broken lines, and surfaces that were commonly seen in architecture. That belief is true in both religious and domestic architecture. Another concept that is believed and has importance is face. It translates as having honor, good reputation, or respect. There are 4 types. The first, Diu Mian Zi, is when actions or deeds from someone have been exposed to other people. The second is Jai Mian Zi and involves the giving of face to others by showing their respect. The third, Liu Mian Zi, is illustrated by avoiding making mistakes and by showing wisdom in action. The last type is Jiang Mian Zi, and this is when face is increased through others. An example of this would be a compliment. The 4 phases of face illustrate respect and common decency awareness for others. The Chinese culture celebrates occasions. A very important celebration for the Chinese is on January 28th, and it is the Chinese New Year, a national holiday. Sometimes the dates can vary because it takes place in the 12th lunar month of the Chinese calendar. April 5th, or the 15th day of the spring equinox, is celebrated, and it's on October 4th. There's a Mid-Autumn Festival. They appear to enjoy celebrating the seasons.
Summary and implications. Our group found it most interesting that we could relate to Chinese culture in ways that we didn't think we could. There are many differences between Chinese culture and US culture, but we wanted to compare and contrast our similarities. We found it most enlightening that the Chinese have their entire culture founded on the idea of respect. Since respect is such an important asset to Chinese culture, we wanted to share the same love of respect while we were learning about their culture. We also found more appreciation for our country because, like most all countries, China has had a troubled past, but they ended at communism and we are at a democracy. The most valuable thing learned was that belief of faith and what it stands for. I think even not being in Chinese culture, it is still something that we can live by and take into consideration when interacting with others. The 4-step process is quick and easy to remember and also is a way to share respect. Our views have changed because at first none of us knew much about China and its history or people. We have a better understanding of what China stands for, and how they treat others shows a lot about who they are as a country in comparison to the United States. China is a great exemplar for living in harmony and being morally conscious. Some implications for a better understanding of the Chinese culture is being culturally aware of their social norms and beliefs. We would not want to enter their country and greet anyone offensively, and most certainly not represent the United States in a poor manner. China was a great experience.